Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Thursday, the 4th of November. This morning I'd like to talk about that old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Because I'm learning that this old dog can learn some new tricks. We were having a conversation yesterday at our Truth and Reconciliation Commission study group in St. Thomas and Wainwright. And I asked them, the group, if they'd watched a program called Madam Secretary with Tia Leone and Tim Daly and Stephen Carradine and characters like that. And it was probably, I think the story, the program ended about the first year that Trump was president. It was a good, I think it had 6 seasons, and it talked about Tia Leone played Madam Secretary, Secretary of State. And for those of you who pay attention to American politics, some of the secretaries of state were people like Madeleine Albright and Colin Powell and Hillary Clinton. And I am a sucker for that show. I love it. So it's not on TV, of course, anymore, but I was able to download it on my iPad. And when I'm in need of just a mindless evening TV watching, I'll throw them on my earphones and I'll watch Madam Secretary. And it's not so mindless. They have given Tia Leone, as Madam Secretary, Elizabeth McCord, the power of being a strong woman in a thoughtful way, with incredible power within the American government to work diplomacy, to make decisions, to influence politics, and be an advisor to the president. President Dalton is Stephen Carradine's character in Madam Secretary. And the production's great. It's a really well put together show. If you liked West Wing, you're probably really going to like Madam Secretary. But what I'm learning and understanding and really have to pay attention to is that for every decision that a politician makes, there are layers and layers and layers of decisions below that. And the fact is, that's like that for everybody. If you think about being a parent, when you make a decision for your child, it isn't just a matter of, this is a cut and dry thing. You have to think about what's important for their future. For instance, if your child comes home and says, they really, 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 really have to be wearing makeup. Okay, this is a personal experience. When I was like 11 years old, I came home in grade 5 and informed my mother, maybe grade 6, that I had to wear makeup. I had to get makeup because every other girl in the class was wearing makeup and I was dying. I was so embarrassed. I was the only one who didn't. And so she gave in and we went and I bought some makeup, really bright blue eyeshadow. And I think I wore it to school once and it worked. The other kids made fun of me, and if you know me, I wear makeup maybe twice a year. When Rob and I are going to a formal function like a Christmas party or something and it's a really dress-up event, I'll put on some makeup. I just don't wear it. I don't have the time. I don't make the time, and I don't make the effort because it doesn't feel comfortable for me. I think I look good, but it just doesn't feel real comfortable. But there were layers in that decision making. Looking back now, think about my mom. She could have just said no. Absolutely not. And then dealt with a preteen with an attitude. What she did do was she called my teacher. And my teacher informed her that indeed there were 2 other girls in class who were wearing makeup. Tammy Stewart and Nancy Balla. Both of them were pretty precocious. Nancy was the local doctor's daughter who had skipped a grade and she was brilliant and they had some money and she had some advantages that the rest of us didn't have. And Tammy Stewart was a survivor of leukemia in grade 5 or grade 6, and she wore a bandana around her head because she was bald, and makeup gave her a sense of feeling beautiful. And so I don't know that Nancy necessarily had a really great reason for wearing makeup, but Tammy did. And I thought, I had to be like them because they were the cool girls. And it lasted for about a minute and a half. But my mom's decision to allow me to wear makeup when I was maybe 11 years old wasn't as simple as simply saying yes or no. She had to think about things. She had to consider the consequences and what would happen. And she had to sort of think in terms of what is life like for an 11-year-old. Would I be ridiculed if I didn't? And if I did wear it, maybe I would learn my lesson and not wear it again, which is essentially what happened. So that's a simple, thing. But think about other things like thinking about a young person deciding whether they're going to go off to college or university or stay home and work. The layers of decision making that go on that maybe other people don't see. It's kind of like a duck floating on the water. It looks so peaceful, and yet underneath that duck's feet, those little webbed feet are just going like crazy trying to keep that duck moving. But yet on the top, on the outside, to everybody looking on, it just looks so peaceful. When we think about politics, when we think about our governments, it is so easy to criticize. It is so easy to say, like, they're idiots. They're making these huge decisions. Everything they're doing is wrong, and maybe it is, but what if it isn't? What are the layers of information? What is the information that we are not hearing about to keep us safe? Canada is a country that is not a political, powerhouse. We are not a nuclear, powerhouse either. We have some economic heft. We have an ethical. We have the ability to speak with an ethical voice in the world, but we're not. We're part of the G20 and part of the G7, I believe, but we're not. We are not the powerhouse of the world. Trudeau is not the most powerful man in the world. That's a good thing, not because of who it is, but because our country just isn't in a place where we can handle that power and that responsibility that comes with the power. But the fact is that our president and our members of opposition, the leaders of opposition parties, they have significant things that none of us ever think about, that they have to deal with. If you think about it, what Trudeau, I'll just use him as an example, what he has to deal with on a regular basis. Whenever there is a threat, and trust me, there are terror threats in our country, just like there are in other places. We don't hear about it on the news every day. That wouldn't be appropriate. It would have us all running around in fits that, something horrible was happening. But that information goes to him, and he has to hang on to that. And he has to trust that the people who are in power, the military and national defense and all those CSIS and all RCMP, that they all deal with those things appropriately and handle them as they are happening. And he knows, the leaders know, that they are going to take it on the chin. They aren't going to get credit if it goes well, because no one will know about it if it goes well. We just won't. But if something goes wrong, something goes sideways, guess who's going to wear it? The Prime Minister didn't act quickly enough. The government, sat on this information and didn't do enough with it. But thinking about all of the layers of things that they have to consider. For instance, with China, with the Michaels, people criticized Trudeau for the ways that he did or did not handle China and the Huawei incident and all of the things that were happening. But there's so many different things that were in play. Our trade with China, if we had just simply said, okay, we're not going to trade with them anymore, how many manufacturing jobs in Canada would be put out of business? How many people would have lost their jobs? How many things would we not have been able to receive that we traditionally receive because we import it from China? And how would that have crippled our economy? Those are all things that we have to think about, or we have to recognize that other people think about before they can make a decision on our behalf. A really strong case in point is the day that the Twin Towers were struck in New York on September 11th, 2001. And President Bush was sitting in a classroom in Texas as a story was being told. And the Secret Service came over and whispered in his ear. And he did not obviously outwardly react. He simply waited for a moment, paused, and then excused himself, and then had to start the business of what he had to do in that horrible moment when his life must have felt like it was just absolutely ending. Imagine trying to breathe and think and make decisions as you're surrounded by little children who don't need to know that their world has just completely changed. The world looked on, and he had to maintain his dignity, and he had to maintain a facade so that he could keep the calm. Our world leaders, our political leaders, our leaders in the church and in businesses and in all of the people around us, our parents, our bosses, they all have to juggle so many things that most of us are not ever aware of. Unless, of course, we're in a position where we're the one making those decisions. And then because we care about the people who we are making decisions for, we probably don't burden them with every single detail and every simple possible reaction to whatever decision we make. We have to learn how, like Madam Secretary, to act with dignity and grace and integrity, recognizing that seldom will a decision we make be received by everybody with applause. And often, the decisions we make that maybe could be applauded are those decisions that no one ever really knows we have made. This old dog needs to learn some tricks about herself, about the way that we live in the church world, the way that we live in our world in Canada, and recognize that as easy as it might be to jump down, Premier Kenny's throat because of decisions that were made, or to get angry at how the government is handling all of these ethical questions about the military. While I have my strong opinions about those things, I have to remember that I don't have all the facts, that I need to pray for those people who do indeed need to make decisions, and pray that they will be given solid, good advice, and that they will make prayerful and careful decisions, and that they will make decisions that are best for the most people, and not simply for themselves, or even for me. This old dog needs to learn that new trick, that there's always more to know. There's always depth of that iceberg below the surface that we can't see, that we need to be patient, and that when we are the ones who are watching someone else make a decision, rather than jumping down their throat, judging them to death, we need to pray for them. We need to encourage them, and we need to be aware of all of the factors that we aren't aware of that are influencing the way that they make those decisions. And then we have to try to support them. And if they honestly don't do a good job, or they make decisions for the wrong reasons, then we need not hate them or be vitriolic about it. We need to encourage them to do the right thing, or to step away and let someone else do it, someone else who can. So this old dog needs to learn that sometimes it's not as simple as it looks. Sometimes, most times, there's a lot of happening in the world of the person that we are expecting something of. And so tonight or today, as I go about my business, as I think about the work that I need to do for my churches, I pray that the people who work with me and the people who look to me to carry their interests at heart would recognize that I'm doing the best I can, and that I will look to those who are responsible for, that I'm responsible to trust that they are doing the best they can. And the same thing with our governments and our officials, that I will pray for them and I will encourage them. And I will, while holding them accountable, will also recognize that in that accountability lies so many things that I have no idea what it is. So I pray for their health, their well-being, a clear mind, a gentle heart, a discernment for what is good for all the people, and not just for the few. And trust that wherever we are and whatever we're doing, God is in control. So those are my ramblings today from this old dog learning some new tricks. And if you haven't yet, check out Madam Secretary. You can download them from the Apple Store. They're really good episodes. Have a great day, everybody. God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael.